Hello, I'm Stephanie. Welcome to my sewing room. I'm excited to share a pattern review with you today on this trench coat from Simplicity. So first up, let me show you the pattern. It's Simplicity 8554 and it says easy to sew. And I'm going to say I agree. It was easy to sew. My skill level's probably intermediate, and I found it simple to make, and all the instructions were pretty simple. So this was my first garment, and I kind of think of my first garment as a tester. And a lot of times I try to make it out of fabric that I don't love, but I didn't have a piece big enough for this because I chose view A, and view A, since it's long, does take quite a bit of fabric. So I went to Joann's and I bought this specifically to make this little coat, and I was thinking it would be great for spring because it's unlined, and sometimes, you know, you get past winter and it's still a little chilly but not cold enough for a coat, but you really want something. I thought this would be great. So I made it in this fake suede, faux suede, and kind of has that denim-y look, but it's suede. It's very soft. And I cut it out. I started to cut it out. Before I finished cutting it out, I thought, you know, I'd kind of like to see it on somebody before I put in this effort. And I found a couple videos, and there was one that I just really liked, and I'm going to refer it to you so you can see her wearing it. Her name is Shutoka, and oh my gosh, she just made this look so good that I got excited. I really wanted it. And actually it was her video that made me immediately want a black one. Her black one was just to die for. So I did make a second one in black. Both of them I chose the embellished sleeve because, come on, who doesn't like all those extra little ties? So this view A, I did alter and put the view C sleeve on it. And on this one, it's view B, but it has everything that this pattern has. It has the sleeves from C, it has the pockets from B, and it also has the pockets from A. So every freaking pattern piece in this pattern package is in this jacket right here. I'd love to show you the finished product right now, so let me just show you me wearing them. You see, I'm going to get a lot of use out of these. They're just so basic, and I think they're just stylish. I really like them, and I love the black one the most. This is a twill from Joann's, and it's super soft, very nice drape. I love the drape on this. I feel like that makes the jacket, so I really wouldn't want anything stiff. I like the drapiness of it. It's unlined, and because of that, you're going to want to think about some seam treatments, and some of your choices would be just to do some pinking shears, which kind of just keeps it from unraveling. Another thing that you could do is just turn under your seams and hem them. Another thing you can do, and I think Shutoka showed this in her video, is you could do some seam binding out of a different fabric and make it really fun on the inside. But I chose none of those. I chose to use my serger on anything that showed. Everything else I used my sewing machine on, but just where the seams are on the inside, I used my serger. So let's just go over this just a little and kind of let me tell you my thoughts as I made this. I'm not gonna lie and say that I never follow these diagrams anymore. I used to, but now I just sort of try to get the most out of my fabric. And I wanted to show you one thing that I think is important though. When you're laying out your pattern pieces, you want to pay attention to that grain line. You probably already do, but if you don't, there's an easy way to do that, and that is just to lay out your pattern piece, get a ruler, and make sure that the edge of the fabric is the same all the way down that line, so that line is straight with the grain. That's just going to help you with your drape of your garment later. It needs to go with the grain line. Just a little tip. So I did the stay stitching, that was step 1, and I made the little dart, and it had a nice tip, which I already knew. This is a tip I got a while back, which is when you get to the bottom of the dart, down into the garment, leave a tail, and then tie a little knot at the end. I do like 2 or 3, and then clip it. That just keeps it from bubbling. It says here it keeps it from bubbling. I wasn't sure why I was doing that. I just knew somebody said to do it, and I've been doing it ever since. So there was that. And then I opted for these flaps. View A did not have the flaps. And when I saw Shutoka's video, I knew I wanted the flaps. I feel like it gives you a little bit of a shape. And I don't have a little waist, but when she tied her belt and these flaps were there, it kind of did the hourglass. And I would love anything that kind of makes me look hourglass. That would be great, because I don't have an hourglass figure. And then so these are all the same pretty much here, and then you get to sewing your shoulder seams together. So what I did there is I sewed it, and then I took it over to my serger and serged, so that I had one serged edge. I had on this one, I think I started with, I started just by serging the pattern pieces, and I actually like it so much better with just one serge. It's just nice. So this one right here just has one serge. So this one I serged all the pieces, this one I serged the seams. I sewed it, then I serged it. The collar was pretty easy, although it was interesting because you have different pieces. So you have, it was interesting. I thought the directions were good though. So this collar goes here, and then you have this facing piece that kind of it becomes part of the collar. So all I can say there is don't try to get ahead of yourself. Just follow these instructions. And I thought the instructions were just right when it came to the collar and the interfacing and the facing piece. I don't have any complaints about any of that. One thing I will say is, as I got going, there were a lot of dots on this pattern piece. Let me find a big piece. So this would be the front. And what I did is I traced this out on pattern paper, because I knew I wanted to make it more than once, and I could do my alterations and save it to my pattern, where you can't really, it's hard to reuse these. And as you can see, I haven't cut this down to a size, so I could use this for any size if I wanted to use it again. It's just unmarked, it's still just brand new. So let me show you my pattern piece. This is what it looks like. I have them on these little hangers. I get these from Wawak. That's what they're meant for. And for the hole, I just use a hole puncher. I punch a couple times. So all my pattern pieces are here. And what you do, and I have a video on how to do this I did a while back, is you just lay the pattern piece under the paper, preferably on a white surface with a lot of light, and then with a pencil you just copy the pattern piece. And so I did that. And I kind of feel like I'm getting a step ahead of myself. Let me show you how I chose my size, shall I? So on the package, it has sizes, and the sizes are based on measurements, and I wish that they were always accurate, but they're just not, in my opinion, always accurate. Are we on? They're not always accurate. So you want to just kind of know your bust. I think for this, bust was most important. So my bust tells me I'm a size 22, and I actually in the store wear about a 16. So I'm kind of iffy on whether that 22 is going to fit me. But then you go down here at the bottom, it says finished garment measurements. So basically you want to know what that measurement is. So 44 is going to be 54. So I felt like, let me see what that looks like. So I put this on with just a top. I'm going to put it right over my jacket and go to 54. So 54 is here. So in my mind, I was holding it like this. 54 is right there. And I was thinking, you want room in your jacket, right? So then when I first sewed up the sides on this, I thought, it's huge. I don't think it's going to look good. So I did take it in. And I took it in to about a size 18, which ended up being 48, whoops, excuse me, 50. So right here, 50. So that's pretty much what I have. I mean, mine might even be a little smaller. But what you want to do is kind of figure out your own size. I always feel like I'd rather start too big than too little. Because if I start too little, how am I going to fix that? Right? So I cut out the 22, and then when I tried on my garment and I decided to take it in a little bit, I laid my new piece down and I traced out my new size, just right on the side seam, so that my next jacket would already be that size. So once I altered this coat, I stopped and altered this pattern piece. Now, to the subject I got to ahead of myself, lots of dots, lots of circles. And so what I would say is, I marked them all, but then I couldn't remember what was what, because it doesn't make it super clear here. Like, here's some dots. They're circles. And here's some circles. Doesn't say anything. And here's some circles. Doesn't say anything. Here's some small circles next to some big circles. And then here's some more big circles. And here's some small circles. Small circles, but they're not as small as these circles. So there's like 3 different sizes of circles. Here's some big circles. So this one says view C. I know that means it's the pocket, because view C has the pocket. Let me see the picture of the pattern. So view C is the only one that has the pocket. So why couldn't they just write pocket next to these circles? Why couldn't they just write pocket? And on the side, you know, the side seam where you have the 2 dots to match the inseam pocket, why couldn't they just write the word pocket instead of which view it is? So I feel like the circles are confusing. That's just my thought. But they'll help you figure out where to place things. So I would definitely, you know, make sure that you, if you're transferring your pattern, transfer all the circles. And what I did is I ended up pulling this out, or that one, and kind of just laying it on top as I'm working and looking for the circles they were talking about. Some of the circles I needed and some of them I didn't. I didn't need the circles to match up this flap. That was super obvious when you got to that point where it was going to go. It matched up with the garment, with the front. So some of the circles you need and some of the circles you don't. That's that. So far as darts, there's, you know, you want to mark them. I use chalk. That way I can, you know, sort of see it and I can just wipe it off. You could also use tracing paper with a little tracing wheel. So I wanted to talk about those circles because there just were so many. So the first thing you did was you did your dart, then you did your flap, if you're doing a flap, and then you sewed up the shoulder, then you worked on your collar and you got your collar on it, and then you worked on your facing, and now we're on to the next page where you're putting your facing to the front. And that went pretty simply, honestly. And one of the things you got to think about is how you're going to hem that facing. So what I did is I serged it once and then I turned it under and sewed a hem. And I did the same on this one because it was the least bulky for me. So if you don't have a serger, you could turn it once or turn it twice and have a hem. And if I had this to do over, I would use black interfacing. I just didn't have any, so now I do. One of my tips on interfacing is if you're near a Joann, they have these 50% off coupons, but it can't be anything on sale, and that interfacing is hardly ever on sale. So just when you have the 50% off coupon, go in and buy, you know, a few yards of that interfacing and just put it in your stash and you'll always have it. That's how I always have interfacing. But I didn't have black, so I have purchased 4 yards of black. It lasts me years. But I got it for a song because it was only 50% off. Okay, so then you're gonna put in the interfacing, turn it. One of the things I will say is pressing is so important on all of these things. It's all in the ironing board. And if you're worried about your fabric, use a pressing cloth and then press and steam. That's what I did. And I have cut up sheets for that, for pressing cloths. Just if this, I didn't want to risk this pressed really easy. But this was the faux suede, I didn't want to mess with it, so I put a piece of cloth in between and I pressed everything down. And this was crispier. I got nice crispier edges than this fabric. It didn't do as much. So it's just going to depend on that. Then you put in your sleeve, and if you do a inseam pocket, it goes here. Now I did mine a little bit with the serger because I knew I wanted my inside seam to be serged. So I have a video on how I use a serger to put an inseam pocket in, and that's how I did it on this and this garment, because both of them have inseam pockets. This one has inseam pockets and it has the front pockets. Pockets, Pockets, pockets. You cannot have too many in my book. So then once you got your inseam pocket, it's time to do the seam. And I really didn't want to do the sleeve set into the garment before I did the seam. I like to set in my sleeve, but it really needs to be according to this pattern, because I actually tried it the other way and it didn't work. It was like messed up, so I had to do it over. And so basically you're going to do your whole seam from here, down there, here, down here, down there. And again, I serged mine. I sewed it first and then I serged it. Then you've got, if you're going to do these, you've got your little ties and your little belt loops. And I will say on the belt loops, I cut a couple extras because they were kind of tiny. It says you take this one and you cut it 4 equal lengths. And I will say that they were a little bit tiny and I wanted them to be generous so that they weren't like scrunching up right there. So that's just a thought you might want to try. When it comes to these ties, I use a little turner that I got at Joann's. Do you have one? Because if you don't, you want one. They're just a few bucks, and when you got to turn any kind of tie, it's so much easier with the turner. So if you don't have one, you might want to put that on your wish list. Okay, so we've got down to putting in our sleeve. If you are going to do view A, for example, but you want to switch to this sleeve, the whole sleeve is a different pattern piece. So you might think ahead before you cut if you're going to do this sleeve. Those two sleeves are two different pattern pieces. It isn't just one sleeve that has the markings for both ways. It's totally a different pattern piece. I do not know why. It is 13 is C and 9 is A and B. So if you think you're doing the tie sleeve, you need to use the tie sleeve pattern piece. Let's see what else we got here. Make your sash super easy, and especially if you use the turner. And then if you want to get nice, you want to get right down to the point, let me show you what I did for that. Do you have one of these? You get those, I get it at Joann's, and basically you just put it in there and you push it and you can get your point, even if it's square, even here, like on the roundy ones, I just used the roundy side and got a nice rounded. And I stuck it in there while I was ironing. So this is such a great tool. I love this, whatever that, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. So there's the sash, and then you're going to hem your facing. Now you want to decide your hem. We're all not the same height, so you can't always determine your hem based on the pattern. So you might want to try it on. It just so happens that I use the hemline that they had on both of these. I'm kind of an average height. I'm just under 5'6". So, I liked both of those hems, but if I wanted it shorter or longer, you'd have to plan ahead. But if I wanted it shorter, I'd need to hem it before I thought about this step with the facing, because you're going to turn the facing right sides together and sew it, and then you turn it back out, and then the rest of your hem is going to match that. So, if I'm making sense. And then there's a slit in view A that I did leave in. So I followed those instructions. And on view B, there was no slit. I don't think there was in the picture. I've lost my pattern again. Oh, there is a slit. I did not do the slit in view B. I just thought it would be nice just to have it be a kind of traditional trench coat. The slit was nice though. I thought it looked good. When you saw my picture of me wearing it, I like the slit. So now we're going to do the pocket. It's last. I don't know why. It might have been easier to do when it was just an easy one piece of pattern piece, but it's the last thing they do. And so what I'm going to say here is you're going to probably try to figure out where those dots are again and figure out where to put that pocket. May I suggest that you decide where to put the pocket, because my dots didn't make the pocket go where I would have put it. So what I did is I tried this on and I brought over, some pins, and I pinned my pocket piece to my jacket where I wanted it. And what I did is I wanted it to be where my hand would reach. Let me just stand up and show you. I wanted it to be where my hand would reach. So right there. And I wouldn't want it up here, and I wouldn't want it too low. I just wanted it right there. Also didn't want it to be into my facing. So when I laid this piece down, I made sure that my pocket was not going to be caught up in the facing. And or I don't know, I just didn't want it to be like another layer there. So it's right outside the facing, but I also didn't want it in my side seam. So you kind of just, you decide. You decide your hem, you decide your pocket, you decide your sleeve length. I will caution you on the sleeve length with this particular sleeve. If you don't have it tied and you hem it, then you're going to tie it and it's going to get shorter. So untied, it's just slightly longer, and then tied, it's a little bit shorter. Ooh, I can't do this with one hand. So, do you know what I'm saying? So that's my review. I mean, it really is an easy pattern, but it's not a fast pattern to me. Even though I already made it, this one still took just as long because there's just a lot of steps. And I had a bad luck day when I made the blue one. Have you ever had a bad luck sewing project? I can't blame the pattern. It was not the pattern, it was me. Everything I did was wrong. I did backwards and wrong the sides together, and it just, I had to undo a lot on this to get it right. It just, I kept doing it over and over. And I almost thought, well, I hate this pattern because, you know, but I tried it on and it looked good. I knew I wanted to do this again in black after seeing Shutoka's video because her black one was amazing. So when I did make the black one, it was so much easier. Another reason to make a test garment. It just makes the process easy when you make the one you really want out of the fabric you really want. I almost always do a test garment. People call them a muslin, but a muslin is made out of muslin, so you can't wear that. I like making my muslin out of fabric, so if it turns out great, I have a garment, right? But the cool thing about a muslin is you can mark it up as you're sewing and do your alterations and transfer them to your pattern pieces. It's a lot to it, but easier the next time. So my rating is an A+. I really like the pattern. I'd like to make it again, but I think I'm going to wait because I have 2 trench coats, and how many do I need? I need to move on to something else. I'm ready to move on to something else. So what do you think? Have you tried it? I'd love to see what you've made. And if you're new to my channel, I do a Friday sewing vlog. Every Friday I talk about sewing and life and just chit chat. So if you're looking for a sewing buddy, I'd like to be your sewing buddy. Come back every Friday. I have other videos about sewing, and I also have a cool glamper, a glamped up camper. A lot of sewing went into that, but just a lot of decorating and fun. And if you want to watch that, I've got a Trailer Tuesday playlist that shows me glamping the whole thing up, and I've actually done it twice before. Also have a playlist on those. I'd love to have you join the channel by hitting subscribe, and thumbs up are always nice, and a comment, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching. I hope you make this. It's really a cool little coat ready for spring. I'll see you next time. Bye now.